Hi, it's me, Daniel, again, and this is my friend Mike White.
Hey, everybody.
So, we're going to be reviewing Fantastic Four number 94, and this is the first appearance of Agatha Harkness, who you would know from the show about her on Disney+, and of course from WandaVision. So, I'm going to go ahead and say that this comic also features a popular Spider-Man villain who you've seen in movies, Sandman. Yeah, for some reason, only known to Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, who I've mentioned before as the creator of Captain America, he and Stan decided for some reason to put Sandman on this Fantastic Four villain team called the Frightful Four. And I can't remember, one of the original members was Medusa, and then there was the Wizard, the Trapster, and Sandman. But for some reason they decided to put him on that team after they had him lose to Spider-Man a bunch of times, including his first appearance as the Sinister Six. And yeah, he joined the team after his defeat by Spider-Man during the first Sinister Six story. So Mike, tell us why, what happened before this comic to give the backstory.
So one thing, if you're reading, especially if you're reading in the Marvel app and you go directly from Fantastic Four number 93 to 94, you're going to be like, what happened? Because this issue, number 94, actually picks up the story from Fantastic Four Annual number 6 from 1969. So in that issue, Sue Storm, or the Invisible Woman, suffers strange cosmic impulses in her blood, which doesn't mean anything in real science, but in comic books, it means that basically her life is in danger while she's trying to give birth to her son. And they haven't named him yet. The name isn't revealed until issue 94. But because of this, Reed is not going to be able to save her or the baby, so they have to travel to the negative zone and fight Annihilus, who has a cosmic control rod right here on his neck. And so that regulates the cosmic energy in Annihilus's body, and because of that, Reed is like, we've got to go steal that from him and take it because we can use it to control the cosmic energy in Sue's body and basically save her. So if you watch the Fantastic Four movie, actually, there was sort of an energy output thing happening while Sue was giving birth. And I think that was a reference to, you know, what happened in the comics here where she was in danger. So that's pretty much what happened. Franklin was born successfully. He is a mutant because he's born with superpowers, so they go back and forth on whether or not they actually use the term for him, but most of the time people consider Franklin a mutant. Yeah, we don't really find out what the nature of his superpowers are either in these early appearances, but those are pretty much the events leading up to this issue. And so in issue 94, which is the issue that we're reviewing today, the Fantastic Four have just returned home from their adventure in the Negative Zone, and Reed and Sue announce that their son's name is Franklin. Ben acts tough, like he doesn't care, until he's told that Franklin's middle name is Benjamin. And there's actually, probably my favorite panel in this issue is the Thing crying when he holds the baby for the first time and realizes that it's his namesake. A little bit of tidbit that you may not know if you don't know a lot of Jewish people is that Jewish people will never name a child for a living relative. So that would have never been something that would have happened in Ben's family. Nobody would have been named for him while he was alive. So because, you know, the FF are not Jewish and he is, now he has this baby that is like his namesake, basically. His middle name is Franklin, or his middle name is Benjamin, sorry. So that like really touched him, and he was, you know, really emotional about the kid's birth. And I don't know, it's just a cool moment where he's like, oh, I don't feel like a freak show anymore. Like, I actually feel like I'm part of the family. So I really like that. If you read number 94, you may see Crystal in here. She is a member of the Inhumans. The reason she's in the story is she was dating Johnny Storm at the time, or the Human Torch, so that's pretty much the reason that she's there, although she stays behind for the adventures of this issue, so she's not really super important. But basically, in a very 1960s writing moment, Reed announces that they need a child rearing specialist because their lives are too dangerous to have a baby around. So kind of like how if you watch Linkara and he talks about how Supergirl comes down and Superman's like, this is a problem that's over there. That's like what Reed wants to do with the baby, is like, let's just put him over there where we don't have to deal with him. So they're like, we're going to find a nanny, basically. And who they end up with is Agatha Harkness. But I guess to sort of prove their point, as the FF are heading to drop off the baby, the Frightful Four are planning to attack them, because of course they are. So this is something that happens in a lot of the early FF issues, where like they go on an adventure, and then before they even get home, somebody else is like coming after them before they can even get back in the Baxter building. So true to form, the Wizard, Sandman, the Trapster, who used to be Paste Pot Pete, and Medusa come after them. And so basically, while the team is getting settled, sorry, I lost my place. They're ambushed by the Frightful Four, but revealing that she's really not on their side, Medusa decides to turn on the Wizard and attacks him with her like living hair, or whatever you call it, prehensile hair.
Yeah, she has red hair.
Yeah, and she goes after the Wizard and sort of flips on them, and she's like, you guys are terrible people. It should be noted, however, that the Sandman of all people does mention that if they're going there to abduct the kid, he's not cool with that. Like, he's like, I'm not going to cross that line. Like, I'm fine with attacking the Fantastic Four, but I don't want to do anything to the kid. So I'm like, all right, Sandman, like, you're not, like, you are a bad guy, but you're not that bad, I guess. So anyway, Oh,
I want to say something about Sandman.
Oh,
real
yeah,
fast.
Go ahead.
So, one thing I want to mention is 11 years of his comic history were fighting the FF on the Frightful Four, and also that the premise from Spider-Man 3, where he has a daughter, was not a thing in comics, not even at the time of Spider-Man 3 in 2007. Although, in a later comic, After One More Day, they do actually, have him have a daughter. Although, sadly, I won't be reviewing that, just like other comics I mentioned After One More Day, because I don't like them After One More Day.
And this is the Sandman in, like, his green outfit with the sort of, like, thing that comes over the top of his head, and, like, the headband and the like, green goggles. It's not the T-shirt that we're used to seeing.
Something else I wanted to mention. When he first joined the Frightful Four, for some reason, they didn't color him with the same shirt that they did in Spider-Man. He had a purple and black stripe instead of green and black stripe.
The colors were not super consistent in these days. Which isn't a surprise with as fast as they were cranking out some of this art.
Anyway, back to the actual comic.
Oh yeah, so basically, not to be discouraged, the Wizard, the Trapster, and Sandman managed to temporarily incapacitate Medusa. But enter Agatha Harkness, and revealing her incredible magical powers, she transforms her pet or familiar cat Ebony into a panther that attacks the Wizard's mind as well as his body. So he's literally like running away from this cat as it gets bigger and bigger and grows into a panther, until it's just like he just sees the eyes like in his mind, and he fires his jetpack and like blows himself into a tree and knocks himself out. So that takes care of the Wizard. But quickly she frees the Fantastic Four and Medusa from the villain's traps. She actually like dissolves the sand that had hardened around Medusa's hair, like keeping her from fighting back. And she freed Ben and Johnny, but she did all of this without entering the room or them seeing her do it. So as far as they know, like for this whole comic, she's just sitting in the room holding Franklin, doing nothing. Like they don't see her save them or do any of this because it's magic. So yeah, basically she saves the day. She stops the bad guys and knocks them out. She takes Sandman and she like hardens him into rock. And the Trapster sees the thing coming towards him, but he sees him as like this giant demon instead of actually just, the thing. So he's like, oh, well, that's crazy. He's acting like he's never seen the blue-eyed idol of millions before, or whatever, how the thing talks. So yeah, basically, Agatha pretty much takes care of the Frightful Four by herself. Like, the Fantastic Four don't really even fight them in this issue. And towards the end, Ben is sort of like, how did she do that? And he's kind of onto her a little bit because he sees a book on the shelf that says something about Salem. And he's like, hey, isn't that where they had those witch trials? And she's like, why are you so scared of me? It's almost like you thought I'm a witch. And it's one of those, you know, like winking at the audience kind of moments, because we know that she actually is. But so this comic ends with Ben running away scared, and Reed and Sue basically being like, look, our kid is so safe. Like, he was totally fine through this whole ordeal. So, yeah, there you have it. That's the first appearance of Agatha Harkness, and that's sort of the introduction of Franklin, as far as, like, he's actually in it in this comic, not just, like, in the act of being born. So,
yeah. You want to go ahead and... there's something I wanted to mention. I couldn't find any information about why Stanley and Jack Kirby, who are both the ones that did this comic, why they created Agatha Harkness. I couldn't find anything.
So, I don't know why they created her, but I can say that Kirby definitely was starting to do stories with magic elements after his time at Marvel, because he created the Demon Etrigan, Jason Blood, and those sort of associated characters, Clarion the Witch Boy, stuff like that. I do think that was an assignment that editorial gave him. They were like, you're going to do a supernatural book. But my understanding is Kirby wasn't real big on those kind of characters. That's maybe one reason why Doctor Strange was co-created by, was it Steve Ditko? And not Jack Kirby with Stan Lee. But yeah, I don't know why they created her, but I do have a little bit of background info about her. That's stuff that we find out later. So this is her first appearance, so like readers at the time wouldn't know any of this, but she basically goes on to be the Fantastic Four's main magic ally. So Reed and Doctor Strange are not necessarily like super close friends. I know that that'll later be retconned, and like they're in the Illuminati together and all that stuff. This is way before any of that. You don't really see Reed and Doctor Strange together that much. So really, for magic stuff, it's Agatha that shows up in their books whenever they have a problem related to magic. And one of their early adventures that she gets involved in, they run into these characters called the Salem Seven, who are actually the grandchildren of Agatha Harkness, but they live in like this sort of like pocket dimension because they were all persecuted for... basically it's like magic has transformed them into monsters. So there's like Bruticus and I'm forgetting all their names, but there's like a whole bunch. There's 7 of them, and they're the grandchildren of Agatha Harkness. Her only son that I know of is Nicholas Scratch, and he's a Fantastic Four villain. So basically, Agatha's good. She's on their side. She takes care of Franklin. And especially in like the early years, she's the person around that kind of like tamps his powers down so that he's not a danger. Because as we'll later find out, like Franklin can create universes with his mind, which is not really a safe power for an infant to have. So yeah, it's good that they have somebody that can kind of like suppress that.
Oh, something else I want to quickly mention before we forget. Yeah. Agatha Harkness did actually train Scarlet Witch or Wanda Maximoff and her magical powers. So there's that in the comics.
Yeah. It's not like they sort of have like an antagonistic relationship with each other in WandaVision, but it's not really like that in the comics. Like Agatha was a mentor for Wanda, so she was like more of a nurturing, like motherly presence, not somebody that was like trying to trick her or like steal her power or anything like that. Like Agatha always kind of seems ominous and scary, but like she's definitely a good guy. Like she's never been portrayed as villainous in really anything that I've read. And I mean, to be fair, that's limited to pretty much her appearances in Fantastic Four, but that's a lot of appearances. I mean, she shows up in their book like a ton, and I mean, not just Stan and Jack's run, but like all through the 80s with John Byrne, when Reed and Sue actually leave the team for a certain period of time because they're like, we don't we don't actually think it's right that like somebody else is raising our kid. Maybe we should go raise him. So they take time off from the team and assume like secret identities and stuff. And that's all stories that involve Agatha as well. So just to keep it straight, like the MCU version is pretty much a villain from what I understand. Like they make her have sympathetic qualities, but at least in her first appearances in the MCU, she's like, you're the Scarlet Witch, Wanda, and like, I want your power, like, give it to me, and she's kind of power hungry, and that's not really how she is in the comics at all. So,
Anyway, final thoughts.
yeah, I mean, it was really fun to come back to this issue. Like, I love the classic FF, and like, the first 105 issues are just, oh, they're so good. With Stan writing and Jack drawing, like something about the two of them working together was just like magic. Like they just, it was like every issue they were coming up with some crazy new character idea that is going to be in comics for like 50 years. So it's just, it was so much fun to go back and read that issue and see, you know, especially after seeing the movie last summer, like the Fantastic Four movie, it was fun to see like the actual origin of Franklin. And I guess the only thing was, it made me kind of sad, because like that moment with Ben, where he was just like so happy that they had a son, and he was so touched by it. I was like, oh, they could have done that in the movie, like no problem. Just mentioned his middle name and had Ben have a little moment with it, and then move on to the story of the movie. But you know, they had to get to their Galactus story. I get that or whatever. But yeah, as far as the comic, like I don't know, I'm biased because I love the Fantastic Four, but everything from like that first era of Stan and Jack with the FF is like a 10 out of 10 for me. So
I loved it. I'm glad you went first, because
yeah,
I think this is a good introduction to Agatha Harkness, but it's not a good FF comic.
That's
FF
fair.
don't get and there was only one letter I could find, by the way, from the letters page of this issue, and this one person said, well, I didn't like this issue because the Fantastic Four were shoved to the side in favor of Agatha Harkness. And yeah, that's sort of how I feel. I like it, but yeah, it was a good introduction to Agatha, but not a good Fantastic Four comic in my opinion.
I think I could agree with that. I think it's hard for me to read it with the mindset of like it just being this isolated issue, because I do know all the history and I know what comes after and I know what comes before. So to me, it's just like, and then this chapter in the story happened, and like, because I don't have to wait a month, it doesn't bother me, because I'm like, oh, I get more Fantastic Four in the next issue, you know. But I can see how at the time that would be like, oh man, now I gotta wait a month and Ben and Johnny barely did anything in this issue. Like, I can see where you're coming from with that. Yeah. So yeah, it's just, it doesn't bother me, because I have all the essentials, so I can just be like, all right, next issue, what happens?
I admit, after first reading this issue years ago from the DVD-ROM, I have a Fantastic Four, I was disappointed in how she was in the WandaVision, because she was a good guy here, and everything she is just being a bad guy. But you know, that's how it is. I mentioned before that the villain of Iron Man 2, who's like a Hispanic guy, he was actually a good guy in comics too, and he was just a straight up villain in Iron Man 2.
Whiplash?
Yeah.
Whiplash? Yeah.
Anyway, I think those are our thoughts, and next time I'll be reviewing a Star Trek Gold Key comic, which is based on the original series. See you then.
All right. Bye, everybody.